Hello, I'm John Marshall Roberts, author of The Voice Code and Igniting Inspiration. I'm an applied behavioral scientist who helps people activate the immortal badass within. And today I want to talk about a simple idea. I want to mention a simple idea that you already know, something you could see on one of those motivational posters at a rental car company, but that you may often forget with great cost to your personal life and to your personal well-being. It's insane to ever give up on yourself. Never, ever, ever give up on yourself. I once worked for a seminar company that they helped people lose weight and quit smoking. And I traveled around the United States from Alaska to Savannah, Georgia, and all points in between, Montana. Man, I traveled the whole country. But I remember in particular a conversation with a young woman who was probably about 23, and she weighed about 350 pounds. And she got some of the products we were selling. And she came up to me afterwards and she says, you know, I have 250 pounds to lose. It's like, you know, like, should I even bother? I mean, really, like, it's so much weight. I have more weight to lose than I'm going to weigh when I'm done. And in that moment of her asking that, of course, my answer was yes, but I had a realization of just how insane it was to ask a question like that. Because the question really is, what's your other choice, right? So just for now, imagine that you're her. You're in that situation. You're in your 20s. Your health's already endangered, right? And you're asking yourself whether or not you're worth going on a diet to lose that weight, because it's going to take too long. You've got your whole life ahead of you, right? And you're asking yourself whether you're worth that investment. It's insane. It's insane thinking, because what's the other choice? The other choice is to die. And so I think what's really called for in situations like that, and in these lesser situations where we can more easily hide, because our physical death isn't imminent, like relationship issues that we decide not to deal with because we don't want to rock the boat, that ultimately kill the relationship. Or career ambitions and career suffering that we don't deal with because we don't want to rock the boat, that ultimately kill our ability to achieve our dreams in life, right? What's really called for in these situations is that we really pull the dirty dishes out of the sink, so to speak, so that we can look at them and see at the end of the day that there's really always just two paths we can go on. One is the path of denial. The path of denial is the path of death. It's the path where we deny our suffering now, right? And we embrace habits that help us hide that suffering, whether it be, eating insane amounts, or whether it be whatever it is, right? Little thoughts of denial or rationalizations that we have to maintain an unhappy status quo, right? The other path is a path of truth. And the path of truth is the one that ultimately sets us free. And what we have to do is get really clear right now that there really is no in-between. Sorry. I'm not a fundamentalist in the sense of ever wanting you to have to believe what I believe about the world. But I will say that when it comes to truth with a capital T, there is no gray area, right? When it comes to deep, powerful, profound, life-changing truth, we have to be uncompromising, or else we get seduced by endless habits and triggers and motivations and desires from our body. We get seduced into a coma of complacency that takes us towards a life where we unconsciously begin to worship death, and we give in to weakness, and we end up very unhappy, trying harder and harder to compensate for our unhappiness, and we don't even really ultimately know how we got there. It all happens because we refuse in the moment, because we give in to temptation. What is temptation? Temptation is a temptation to believe in our own self-deception, to believe in our own denials. Right? So giving up on ourselves means lying to ourselves. And it means being unwilling to face our own self-deceptions and stand for that which would really invigorate us, which would really bring out our strength. Why? Usually because we either want to avoid discomfort or we're clinging to the illusion of pleasure that comes from denial. Okay? So never give up on yourself. Never, ever give up on yourself. And understand that any time you allow half-truths and procrastination and things like this to sort of wheedle you into a reality where, it's not terrible, but it's not great, right? Where you deny your own suffering, you've given up on yourself. Because the real you has no limitations. Can you get this? Please get this. The real you has no limitations. You have no limitations. Losing 200 pounds is not a problem for you. Making $1 million is not a problem for you. Telling the truth in your relationships and healing them is not a problem for the real you. The real you has no problems. The you that has problems is not the real you. So the you that would avoid problems is really just part of a delusional system that you've created because at some deep core level of mind, you gave up on yourself. When we pull back the covers of self-deception, when we look into the suffering that we've hidden, we often find some pretty murky emotions in that abyss. We find rage, terror, and often we find a deep agonizing grief, a sense of being separate from our source, from our creator, from ourselves. With that, we often find some self-loathing, deep self-loathing when we pull at how we were willing to do that to ourselves for so long. And all those emotions, am I going to say they're fun? No, they're not. But understand, you are God of your universe. And every bit of that suffering, when you face it and reclaim it, gives you that much more power. The fast track to freedom is to refuse to label our inner experiences as bad or good, and to feel them as they are, as energies of a certain character and quality. So when you stand with authority for your right to reclaim your power from your own unconscious mind, when you refuse to hide from your fears, when you refuse to apologize for your shame, when you stand tall and look in and reclaim that territory, that holy territory for the God within you, then there is nothing in this world that isn't yours to achieve. And there's nothing you cannot achieve relatively effortlessly. Why? Because you refused to give up on yourself. Take just one step. At the end of the day, when we get in these things, here's what it boils down to. You have a choice. Either double down on a path that leads to death, or pick one thing that you can do each day that moves you one step closer to the life you've always wanted. Don't worry about the future. Take care of the now. Take care of the now. Do one thing, okay? And then the next day do another thing and another thing and another thing. Building momentum. You'll become unstoppable. I look forward to hearing about the results you generate. Take this on. Don't just treat me as another YouTube guy blabbing away. Take this on. Take this on for you, okay? And then get in the comments and tell me how it goes. Tell me about the results you make. Use this moment to choose the truth. And let's generate some beautiful momentum together. Ready? All right, let's do it.